Conversations with Niki is brought to you by studyapps.co.za, South Africa's leading education app for tablets. Welcome to Conversations with Niki. It is, as always, a real delight to be with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do look forward to our time spent together. So my name is Niki Seberini, and I'm going to be with you, and I have two very interesting guests who are going to be joining me, and I hope that you're comfortable and you're going to sit back, relax, and enjoy what comes up. I'd like to welcome my syndication partner listeners. That's up here in Joburg, Eldo's FM and Chai FM, then Port Alfred, there's Kawi FM. In Namibia, West Coast FM, we have MC 90.3 FM in Plet, Neisner FM, then in East London, that's Wild Coast FM, and Bay FM in PE. Listen, I said it to you last week. I really enjoy hearing from you. More and more people communicating via email and via the Facebook page and giving me ideas of shows. So if you have been putting forward those ideas, there's some that we've already covered. But I'm always looking for new ideas, and then you get to hear your show or the kind of show that you really want to listen to. So I'll direct you to the website, which is www.conversationswithniki, which is one word, and Niki is spelled Niki. And that's .co.za. All the podcasts of the show are there, and there is a contact me page as well, which you can use to have some wonderful dialogue with me. And also, I'm giving away a Colpad 2 7-inch Wi-Fi tablet. So if you've wanted to start 2014 in touch with technology and have access to wonderful technology, now is your opportunity. Second week of Feb, Lawrence from tabletworld.co.za will be doing a draw here in the studio, and everyone who has liked my Facebook page stands a chance of winning that Colpad 2 7-inch Wi-Fi tablet. All you have to do is like my Facebook page. So go along facebook.com/Conversations with Niki. One word, Niki spelled N-I-K-I. Like it, and then there could be a chance that you could win that tablet. Now, this world that we live in, I mean, the one thing we do know, because it is quite uncertain, but the one thing we do know for sure is that nothing stays the same. Everything is changing throughout the day, throughout our lives. And I think that if we're not used to change, that's where we seem to get stuck in lives, when it's so hard to let go. And also, the days of having a career that spanned 30 years working in a particular company and giving those 30 years and then retiring, well, those are long gone, because people seem to be moving and evolving and changing who they want to be and where they want to go. And that's why it's always lovely to have those kind of people on the show to show you that it's possible, to have perhaps inspire you to reach your full potential and live your fullest of dreams. And that's why I have my next guest in the studio. You've seen him on TV, you know. He started off as a TV presenter, he's an actor, he's a counselor, and now he's an author. So talking about grabbing the bull by the horns and really going with the changes and shifts and movement in life. So he's here to talk about his life story and how the shifts and changes have taken place and where he is today. So I'd like to welcome Pierre de Villiers into our studio. Hi Pierre, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Niki?
Oh, lovely. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here. Yeah, I was looking forward to it.
Me too. Oh, and as I said, you know, we hold on to things, don't we?
Yes, we do.
It's so scary to let things go. It's so scary to move into that next sphere.
It is, and it's interesting that there's such a huge movement in the mass media, and that's thanks to people like you. So credit to you and all the others for people are really opening up to, the fact that they've got to look at their issues. I mean, I'm just going to speak bluntly with that we all have issues. I do, you do, we all do, and we carry them. And you're right, to face your demons. And I always say that you can't heal until you face the demon. And people come to me to see what their demon is. I also know that people sometimes struggle to know what it is they need to deal with.
And also how to let it go, Pierre. You
Absolutely.
know, finding that demon can sometimes be a crutch.
Absolutely.
It's the demon that's causing whatever.
Yes.
So
that's a perfect example. Let's say that I go to work every day with a headache, And there's a huge payoff because everyone's always asking, how's your headache? How are you feeling today? So I don't want to let go of that issue because that actually serves me.
Yeah.
There's always a payoff for each issue.
Listen, this evolution and this change and this moving forward is not easy, but it's exciting.
It is.
And it's rewarding.
It is.
And as I said, you know, that's really what we want to do with Conversations with Niki, is just give all people access to minds like yours and to others, and hopefully inspire them to keep moving forward.
Absolutely.
Because you have had an extraordinary career. I mean, you were on SABC too. Continuity presenter. Do you remember the days of the continuity?
Yeah, you remember they used to say if you're an ex-model and you can still read because you've got the auto cue, then you can be what they called a talking head. And that would be the continuity presenter.
A talking head.
Yeah, a talking head.
Did you write your own script at all?
Yeah, yes, we did. We did.
Okay.
You know, I studied journalism, amidst many other things that I've done, and so I was able to write the script, and it's quite interesting because you know it's all live, so you on your feet. I mean, you and I are live now, but you know you also got to kind of, do I look alright? Am I? And they used to say to us, when your forehead is shiny, then you get fired. So we were just powdering away.
What pressure, my goodness.
Yes.
For something you have very little control over.
Yes.
Because nerves, I mean, you sweat when you're nervous.
Absolutely.
You are going to shine whether you like it or not.
Absolutely. I mean, you certainly don't have the face for radio. You should be on TV because you're gorgeous. But you know,
listen, you're charming.
Well, thank you. You know, that comes with a package. You know, it opens a lot of doors. But that's true, Niki. You know that a lot of people on radio, it's easier in a sense because as I'm sitting here, I could have just arrived. Please don't tell them what I'm wearing, but I could have arrived.
Well, don't tell them what I'm wearing.
In my PJs, you know. Yeah, I'm seeing your little running shorts and your. No, I'm joking. You know, but on a serious note, so when I did the television stint for those years, because I did so many things. I had a role in Igoli. I was, as you say, continuity presenter for SABC2. I anchored some shows like the Big Brand TV show. I don't know if people remember that.
Yes, of course.
I did some infomercials. I did some commercials. I did some radio work as well, or whatever. The point is that you're a public figure, as I still am, be it in a different capacity, because now it's just a different jacket, really, isn't it? Which is now it's Pierre the author.
Right.
But there's still TV, and of course that continues. You know, it's not like it's not an either or, as you said. It's all of it together, and it's an incredibly exciting melting pot of what I call a portfolio career. So you're doing a whole bunch of stuff all at once, and a lot of people are moving towards it.
A lot of people. You're juggling. But when do you know when to let something go so that you can move forward in into a new space? So even though you're doing everything else, I mean, going from TV, being a continuity presenter, acting in Igoli, and then being a lecturer at UJ, was it just something that you want? Was that kind of like your day job, or was it? I mean, how did that work? And did you want to move in that direction? Or was it just
it's very interesting.
Passed easily.
I think it's a bit of both, you know, and it's certainly a very, very good question as to, you know, I think life gives us signs, not to be all like, whoa, you know, let's hug the trees, but which we should, but I really do think that life gives us clues, and that if we open enough to get those clues, you know, that and it's so cheesy by now, that where the one door closed and the other one opens, you know. It's actually true, you know. So if let's say for whatever reason, I mean, you would have been in a state, but let's say if for some reason this morning, I don't know, I couldn't get you, and you would have to make a different plan. It's the universe, I believe, steering you. And today was not the right time to speak to Pierre. So I don't know, you know, I do try and read the signs, use a little bit of common sense, you know, and then people go, oh, you got, you know, this degree and you've studied this and you've done that. And I always go, you know what, the biggest is the degree in life. So to get to know life, and how do we get to know life is by knowing ourselves. And how do we get to know ourselves? That's interesting, because now religion comes into it. And of course, amidst my clients, I saw Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, non-believers, fanatical Christians, you know, and it's interesting. You can see all the dominoes, and this is what makes it so exciting when it comes to doing the counseling.
Well, what made you want to be a counselor? I mean, have you always, growing up, I mean, were you the person that everyone wanted to talk to? Really?
Yes, you make me laugh. You're very good at profiling. You give me one look and you can see this one was dishing out advice at a young age. You know, I was, to be honest with you. And it's also interesting, and I want to share that with the listeners, because let's learn something more than just chat, you know. And that is that if you want to start thinking about what role did I play growing up in the family, and that's something that can take you a couple of years, or maybe
what role did I play growing up in the family?
I'm going to reveal something to you.
That's something to think about.
Yes. I was the rescuer. Mom wasn't happy. Dad wasn't always happy. Siblings weren't always happy. So I became the joker, stroke entertainer, stroke actor, stroke, you know.
It's a lot of pressure.
It is. And I'm the one who would like, come on, and cheer him up, and cheer him up. And it's interesting, my name, Pierre, is French for Peter. And we know that from the Bible, Peter means rock. So it's interesting that I ended up becoming this rock for people. I mean, I've counseled over 10 years now. And you're right, at a young age, I don't regret it. I'm not complaining. I'm saying that...
But you note it. You note where it came from.
Yes, and I think that's good.
You
know, it's a
understand
starting point for, okay, if I was the rescuer, what does that imply? Where does it point me to? I want to just come back to what you asked, and you said, how did you... I have to give credit, really I do. And I speak very, very fondly of the University of Johannesburg, if I may. I'm doing a free plug for them. But UJ was there when I needed to I needed to give back. It's all fine to sit there night after night in people's homes and you're looking wonderful, because believe me, by the time they've slapped some makeup and the right lighting on any of us, we all look gorgeous.
Yes.
So, you know, yeah, so there you are. I mean, I've had people meeting me and going, oh, on TV you look so great. Like, well, thank you. You know, that's of course in these days in the print media, even on my book, I'll be honest, there's a little bit of Photoshop that's been done. And
I wouldn't admit that to
well,
too
thank
many
you.
people.
My agent yesterday said, Pierre, you look about 3 or 5 years younger than your books look, making you look very young. But so we live in a society, and this is again important, and I think it's an interesting balancing act that I had to do between what is illusion, and so much, as you know, Niki, of the mass media is illusion. And you know, whether you're playing a role in a soapy, as I did the Soap Star, whether you are presenting a show. I remember presenting stuff that I don't want to mention specifics. I can't. I'll be in, you know, deep trouble. But I was honestly feeling nothing for it. Nothing for the brand. Nothing for the product. But you're there. You're being paid. It's a job, and of course it is. And I was just eventually found myself trapped in the spider web. I'm really revealing a lot of my intimate world to you today. But you're very good at this, Niki.
I love this,
you know, that
world.
I was in the spider web of riding this tidal wave of you know, you're in the magazines, and you're in the tabloids and the newspapers, and you know, you're in the media, and people expect you to look good, and you look fantastic every day, but eventually it's layer upon layer of illusion, of facade, as you say. That's a very good word. And I started feeling suffocated, if I can, you know, symbolically speaking. But I just felt I needed to do something to reverse this process without losing my career. So it was a balancing act again. I didn't want to give up on TV. I was enjoying it, I'll be honest. I mean, I've always enjoyed TV and radio and just public in general, and people coming up and having fans. And you know, I was speaking to a crowd this morning, and I said, I've got to run now, I've got a radio interview, I'm sorry, I cannot speak to you any longer. Sorry if I was. So it's lovely to be in the public eye, as you are, and you know that. But UJ gave me the chance, the University of Johannesburg, when they said, Pierre, don't you want to come and lecture communication for us? And it's interesting, from the communication while lecturing, and I was really enjoying that, because I also studied communication, there was a gap that opened on a more emotional side, which was life skills. I think the schools call it life orientation,
Yes.
so that people will know it. LO. I hear my kids say, "Pierre, it's LO." I go, okay, in my day it was life skills. And I started lecturing life skills and or life orientation, and there was a whole lot of emotional, finding yourself, personal development. You can see the direction that I'm pointing
Right,
in, which
of course.
really is emotional.
Mhm.
So here I was coming from a very masked, gorgeous model, TV, public figure, always looking great, you know, so much pressure, to being able to balance it with, here I can just be Pierre.
Mm.
And I think even in this interview it comes
Be your
through
true
that I
self.
have a desire,
Yeah.
yes, to sometimes say, guys,
Authentic.
this
We
is
want to
just
be
who I
authentic.
am, and
We
the clients
do.
like that. It's just, I'm not a guru. I'm not. Please don't put me on this pedestal. It's great. It's fun. You know that people go, wow. You know, you're a big. I love because one of my students said, oh, say you a celeb. What? How does it go? A celebrate. Yeah, you're a celebrate. And I thought, a celebrity. That was so sweet. But it's lovely to, as you say, to be yourself and to have that focus and to not lose it. And I'll be honest, I felt like I was losing it a little bit in terms of spreading myself too thin. I was busy doing international movies. I was reading the news on radio. I was being on TV. It was crazy, Niki. They used to fly me down to Durban every week to do this one show at the SABC in Durban because they big compliment. They felt that I was better than any Durban guy they could find. I don't know why, but okay. So and so I used to fly down, and then I remember the one morning flying back. I was back at lunchtime, having seen the ocean and that just now, like at early morning, and then it was rushing to get to makeup to do some kind of gig, and that night I went straight on to live presenting on television. Well, the next day I slept until like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I was just, and I realized
It's almost as if
it's too much. It can
you're skimming
get
the
too much.
surface. You're skimming every surface, aren't you? You're doing it all. And then you just want to stop and maybe just go a little bit deeper and be in that moment and give back. So you're a counsellor and you've been counselling for 10 years.
Yeah, more than 10 now. No, into the new year. Yeah.
So you continued with this Pierre the Saviour, the Rock, at home, helping everyone out, and then going to strangers and dealing with that. But I have to ask you one thing though. I mean, your feelings and your emotions and where you are. You said you did, in life orientation, that you delved into that. But does it ever get a bit much sometimes when it's always about everybody else?
Oh, my poor clients who are listening. But, at times you do get a little tired of
well, let me ask you
listening to everyone's problems.
Okay, so let me ask you this rather. How do you find the balance? Maybe that's a better question. How do you find the balance of giving yourself, of being there for others and not neglecting your own self?
That's very, very good. Okay. Short answer? Balance. Because I tend to I over communicate because I lectured communication for way too many years. So I over communicate. Short answer, balance.
Which is?
I've got to be able to be the public figure, which I feel, and it comes with age and experience, and we learn. And I've got to balance that with being the counsellor. And it's interesting because I've been too extreme with the one. Then I kind of I didn't get out of TV. I never went away. I mean, I was still doing ad hoc stuff, but it wasn't as frequent, ongoing, and all the time, and every night, and every day, and so I kind of scaled it down. And then I'll be honest with you, I saw too many clients. It was just one in, one out, like a sausage machine. And then eventually I realized, Pierre, now you're giving too much.
In the other direction, yeah.
So what I do these days, I see my clients, I go very much in a gut feel with, is this really someone who's open to help, or is this a bored saints and housewife with a lot of love and respect to all of them because I love their checkbooks and their gold cards? But they seem to be very generous. But when I sit in a session and I get one of those, and then I said to my husband that, and if he doesn't, and when I spoke to the gardener, Pierre, let me think, was that Tuesday? No, that was Wednesday. That's right. And I said to him that I just think this is absolutely great. I do not book that client again. When I'm sitting with someone who's serious about change and who's ready for the, to be, I always laugh because people say, Pierre, what do you do? Because yes, I'm a counselor, but I use so much, because I studied psychoanalysis for 4 years, so there's a lot of the old school that kind of Stricht und Gestalt, the very dogmatic Freud, Jung, I was trained old school. Yet I'm open to everything universal, energetic. I don't want to say esoteric. Let's say holistic. Absolutely, I'm open to all of that. And as much as I believe in a higher power, and if people say do define yourself as a religion, I would say Christian. That's fine. But wow, I got no idea where we were going. You just got me talking so much. I'm enjoying it so much. I wasn't even sure what you were going. Where were we finding the balance? So seeing a few clients, but being more selective. So there, I'm going to add another word for you, Niki. Balance. Because I think the listeners can use this in their own lives. Guys, sit down and just have a look. Am I doing nothing but work while neglecting my marriage? While neglecting my kids? Am I just living for the office? Am I coming home at 10, 11 at night? And, where is the quality of life in the balance? How do you find the balance? By being selective. And that's what I had to learn. And I'm sure there's a lot of...
That's hard, being selective. Because, when you're running around, everything seems important. All the things that you're doing seem to be important. So then part of being selective is prioritizing.
I love that.
You've got to know.
You back to the life skills, which is amazing how I wish. And you and I, because we're the same age group, I'm sure. And you and I, there wasn't life orientation.
No.
We weren't taught these things.
No, we weren't.
So it was all academic. And I think it's amazing and it's marvelous. And again, credit to University of Johannesburg for bringing that in for the students. Because I would see them, they would be kind of first year. So they're very green, very open, very sponge-like, if you will, to receiving information. And yes, they get taught literally. We had a handbook on how do I self-explore. How do I form healthy friendships?
So we had to go through the difficult stages of life to get to what they're learning in a book.
Am I right?
Is that fair?
Isn't it? There you go. There you go. Now you got wonderful people in books like Dear Pierre to help you through it.
Before we talk about this book, I want to ask you something, because you talk about being the rescuer, the helper, and then you read books about being there for other people. But can we really help other people? Do you see yourself as a helper? Do you see yourself as a life changer? Do you see yourself as a catalyst? Do you know what I'm saying? You mentioned a little bit earlier about people who come to see you perhaps just want to hear their own voice, or maybe they just want to vent what's going on in their lives, and those who actually want to make change. But how do you do it? Are you just the person who points out? Should you be giving advice? Well, this is what you should do. This is what you shouldn't do. Where do you stand with this?
Again, as you do a brilliant interview. Let me tell you that I get interviewed all the time, and then you do it because you ask really important questions, Niki, and we need to look at these things. That can we really help people? Because what I'm saying is that you're actually asking me 4 or 5 questions all in once. So and it's nice because it opens up doors for where I feel this is what the listeners should be hearing. And I'm going to go back to what you were asking. And say to you, can people be helped? Only if they're willing. Okay. So that selectivity comes back to, I have to be able, when I meet a client, to know, is this someone who's truly willing? Yes, and then of course ability comes into it. Shame. I see some youngsters and they're 14 or whatever, and they're there and they want to do the emotional work, but you can't really go too deep and too hectic and put poor little things in shock. So you can do that with an adult who can take it. Because I tend to be, I'll be honest with you, I was a strict lecturer. I was not there to be liked. I was there to be a good lecturer. And it's incredible how people after that year then come to you and say, we adore you. And I'm like, wow,
they like those boundaries.
Gee, boundaries are so important. I always say, when it comes to people and your dealings with people in general, let's take from all of this that we're discussing, set boundaries. Learn to say no. Everyone's going, yes, 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 yes. It's the please disease, is what I call it.
Yeah.
You know, wanting to please everyone. Then you end up saying, Pierre, how can you tell me, you Niki, to talking about being selective, but here I am and I have no choice. You always have a choice. You do. And you
may not feel like it at the time. May not.
Yeah.
It may feel like every choice has been taken away.
Yeah.
But there is still some aspect of a choice.
Choice.
I think that's what I like about this book, because you've taken 30 case studies.
Right.
Sorry, we're going in a million directions, because you haven't even finished answering that question.
No.
Because there are 30 case studies, and even though you've taken real letters that people have written you, and they're anonymous, and you have asked permission, because I did think about who would want their letters put there. But I think that everybody who reads it will be able to find something in there that they can absolutely relate to. And so you respond to that. So it's a letter. So it could be, I'm having a problem at work. It could be, I'm having my husband or my wife's having an affair, or I'm not assertive enough in the relationship, or religion, or whatever it is.
You've done your homework and you've read this book. I can tell.
I have. And then Pierre, you respond. And I almost, once you've responded, I'm like, but come on, give us feedback. Like, did that person do it? And did they think about what you said? Just think about, because that's what you do. It seems as if you're just opening a door for them. And then if they want to, they can move into that room, and then they can explore more.
That's exactly.
So I wanted more. I wanted responses.
That's lovely. That would be the second book then. But yes. Okay, you know, and it's interesting that you're one of a few people who've said to me, Pierre, I love the book. As you said, it's 30 case studies. They're actual clients, and these were clients who chose, for whatever reason, to not come and see me in person, but to write me an email, and I kept those emails. And as you said, later on, I then used them anonymously, and we compiled them. So they're in Q&A.
It's a bit voyeuristic, because I feel like I'm experiencing someone else's life, and there's a sense of enjoyment in that, you know.
Yes, I was doing an interview. I mean, I'm bragging, but I was doing an interview with live with someone in New York a few weeks ago, and she said to me, it's reality self-help. That's what I call it, is reality self-help. So
it is.
Yes, I suppose it is. And I think that's what makes it fresh, different, new, why it's been so popular, why it has sold out so fast, and why people struggle to even get hold of a copy, is because it's different. It's not the, here's my life story, what can we all learn from it, which is your typical recipe, with a lot of respect, to I'm writing a self-help book. People think self-help means autobiography. This is not. This is a glimpse, and I love what you said. I want to come back to that I've had people saying to me, I wanted more. I picked up the book. What's lovely about the book is because it's 30 different case studies, you can read any chapter and it's random, you know. So
absolutely.
So it's lovely, isn't it? So you've got 5 minutes waiting for a meeting. You've got Dear Pierre in your handbag. Pull it out and do a quick chapter. It's 5 minutes. You know what I mean? You can randomly just jump around. And I've had people saying, I identified with more than one person in there. I identified with, some said 6 people, some said 8. Makes me wonder, but okay, you know,
everyone will have something they can relate to.
Absolutely, and I've made sure that it does. It covers from the mundane to the bizarre and everything in between. You've
got a wife with a wandering eye, a victory over cancer, a yearning for a parent lost, a single mother battling, a disturbing view on crime, a husband who needs sex, a youngster sexually confused, a fear of public speaking, a business lost forever. I've just read out 7 or 8, right. And I think that is what makes it very, very interesting, because you're dipping into someone else, and then well, let's see what they have, and let's see what their experience is, and then I can look at my life as well.
Yes,
and can I relate, or are things not so bad?
I could almost say, and you were saying it, but you know, the book is, and I think it's nice. I always say go out on a, you know, with a bang or whatever. So by the time the book was out from the publishers, I wanted it to be like, you know, big and boom, and there it is, and that's exactly what you achieve when you give people just enough so that they feel they've had a taste of it. But you've got to always leave them wanting more. I'm giving away all my secrets, but you've got to leave them wanting more. Be that on TV, be that as an actor, be that as a public profile, to not be overexposed but still be in the public eye. You've got to give them just a taste, and And that's what as you said, I think we've done in the book, because I've had, as you said, one or two people saying to me, Pierre, but where's the follow-up? What happened then?
And then?
Where
and
to?
yeah.
And I couldn't put it down because, okay, and then on to the next one, and on to the next one. It's like a kid in a candy store, if I may, without, being self-congratulatory. But
No, but it is. Pierre, it is. So listen, I'm looking forward to book number
Thank
2.
you.
And I'm looking forward to coming onto the show again.
Thank
and maybe
you.
we can go into more specifics.
Yeah, I want to
But
talk
this
about so much that you mentioned.
I know. we only just, as we've mentioned, skimming the surface.
We have.
So that's Dear Pierre, and it's private letters to a practicing therapist out at good retail outlets, bookstores. So go and get a copy. You'll enjoy it. And Pierre, it's been lovely.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you. Pierre de Villiers, thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Could I tell people where to follow me?
Please,
Would that be all right?
yes, absolutely.
Please follow me on Twitter. It's so easy. It's SAPDV. So it's South Africa, Pierre de Villiers. So at SAPDV.
Simple as that. I'm going to follow you too. Thanks, Pierre.
Thanks, Nick.
Go well. Hope you enjoyed that. Pierre de Villiers. Dear Pierre is the name of the book. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Svea Prinsloo, and I'm the HOD of IT Integration at Bridwin Preparatory School in Melrose. We started using study apps about 6 months ago and have seen astonishing results. We were quite amazed to see how quickly the kids have been able to use study apps and the benefits it has shown with regards to reinforcing what they've already learned inside the classroom. I would highly recommend study apps for any school.
Studyapps.co.za. Well, welcome to Conversations with Niki. My name is Niki Seberini. And we have another half hour ahead of great storytelling, great conversation, and really a superb guest. I would like to welcome my syndication partner listeners. That is here in Joburg, Elders FM and Chai FM, Kawi FM in Port Alfred, West Coast FM in Namibia, MC 90.3 FM in Plet, Knysna FM, Wild Coast FM in East London, and Bay FM in PE. And just a reminder to go to my Facebook page, to like it, and mid-February, Lawrence from Tablet World will be coming into the studio, and we're going to take all the people who like the Facebook page, we're going to be putting it into a box, and we're going to be doing a draw, and that person whose name is drawn will win a Colpad 2 7-inch Wi-Fi tablet. So thanks to tabletworld.co.za. So just make sure you go and like it. Go to facebook.com/conversations with Niki, one word. And Niki is spelled Niki. Also, if you have a problem and you have to leave and you can't listen to the rest of the show and you want to, every single show is podcast. Just a day after, I will put that podcast onto the website, and the website is www.conversationswithniki.co.za. And you can also communicate with me. I love to hear from you, and I love to get an idea of what kind of shows you're looking forward to. So let me know. I really do enjoy that interaction. So this is a lady who we watched on TV. She is hysterically funny, but she's also very serious in her own way. And she's currently in South Africa. She's just finished a very successful run at the Peter Turin Theatre in Johannesburg, and she's currently putting on shows at the Bay in Cape Town. Her name is Ruby Wax. She is wonderfully talented. We're just waiting to get hold of her so we can talk a little bit about the show, because she's not, I mean, when Pierre was here, and Pierre was talking about moving from one career to the next, starting off and acting and continuity, and then becoming a lecturer, and then becoming an author. And I think that the evolution will continue. Well, same things happened with Ruby Wax. I mean, she's a comedian, but now she's an author as well, and she's written a book called Sane New World, where she looks at all aspects of depression, because in fact she is a sufferer of depression. She talks about 1 in 4 people who suffer from depression, and that it's a reality, and this mental disease is something that is prevalent. I believe in the world that we live in today, it seems to be getting worse. And so I'm really hoping we can chat to her in a moment, but we do seem to be having a problem getting hold of her. So Pierre, I'm so glad that you're still here. Here you are.
Exactly.
Ready to save the day.
I'm not going anywhere. This is the Niki show. For goodness sake, where would I be? Where did you think I...
Listen, is depression,
Yeah.
because you're there. I mean, you're at the forefront of it all.
Yeah.
And I watched Ruby Wax's TED Talk, and she spoke about in the days of, when we would be walking in the fields and an animal would try and attack us, and we'd run in the opposite direction, and all the adrenaline and all the hormones that went through our bodies to save us were necessary, and it happened once in a while.
That's
Whereas
right.
we are in a heightened state of stress every single day throughout the day.
Absolutely, depression. Obviously, it's right up. Oh, first of all, can I say I'm a huge Ruby fan. So
she's
I mean,
fantastic.
she's the best. So, but as far as depression goes, it's definitely right up there with. If I had to say, here's the top picks for what I've dealt with clients over let's say a decade or so. Depression is going to be among the top 3, as you say, Nikki. And what it is, we bombarded. We are saturated. We are just overwhelmed with so much stimuli. If I'll give you an easy way. I always say to people, think about it. Just because they go, I'm not stressed. It's almost like people are also embarrassed. There's a stigma that and not having read Ruby's book, but certainly will, I'm sure that she's going to touch on that as well, that there is the stigma around depression as if, no, I'm fine, I'm doing fine. And depression and stress, it's so closely linked. And what I find, I say to people, think about it in the morning. You open your electric garage door, and then it's the gate, and then it's the person on the corner asking you for money, and you kind of half and already speaking to the office on your Bluetooth, while trying to and keep an eye on the traffic. And there's all the billboards next to it, and you've got the radio. There's the news, and Niki's busy talking on podcast. It's just, we can't. The body was never here. So I agree with Ruby completely, and with what you said, that I don't believe that that we were designed as a species to
handle it.
It's too much. It's simply
Well,
too
it's
much.
interesting. I mean, she holds an MA from Oxford in mindfulness-based
That's
cognitive
right.
therapy.
That's
And this
right.
is something that this is really what saved her. I mean, she talks about going for therapy, she talks about being on medication,
Yes.
but mindfulness
Yes,
is what she says it's all about.
I absolutely agree. And mindfulness, there's this very strong link between mindfulness and self-observation. Because how can you be mindful, not to be too analytical in my vocab, but how can you be mindful of your external world, let's call it that, when your internal focus is havoc and your internal world is falling apart? I always say your external world is really just reflecting. And I'm sure she'll agree that that's just a reflection of what's going on inside of you, and you, so dealing with, back to the stress and the depression and the above. I want to include anxiety. I want to include all the stigmas that go with it. People are so ashamed to ask for help. I want to include the antidepressants. I want to include the panic attacks. I want to include, we can carry on. This is the society that we live in.
And what is the stigma attached to mental illness? Why is there such a stigma?
Why
don't people admit that they have a mental illness?
Exactly, and it's not to knock other mental illnesses, but I don't like that depression as such is grouped with mental illness. There you go. So if I say to you, "Oh, Nikki, I'm feeling a little depressed today," I mean, now suddenly I'm a nutcase. Now I've got a mental illness. No wonder people don't ask for help, and no wonder they don't, so my big thing, and I've always said, people say, "Pierre, you do so much stuff, what is your ultimate goal?" I don't know yet. There's the book, there's the TV, and I'm identifying with Ruby, who, she's using her public profile vehicle, if you will, to put across a higher message, be it through the book or as a person.
Well, she's become a mental health campaigner. There's no doubt about
Absolutely,
that.
and that for me is the same. If there's one thing I can do, amidst also being a huge animal lover, and I feel very, very, very passionate about animals and cruelty towards animals. Let's not go there. I'm also very, very big. There's those two things: animals, and the other one is to remove the stigma of this mental illness label that they stick onto. And I want to say depression, stress, anxiety, antidepressants, that whole realm.
I think we've just got to be comfortable with the word mental illness,
Absolutely.
because and this is again what she said in her talk. If you have sugar diabetes, is there a stigma attached?
No one blinks, or
no
high
one
blood
blinks.
pressure.
If you've got high blood
Yes.
pressure, you've got high cholesterol. No, you take your medication.
No one thinks
and
it's
you certainly wouldn't poo-poo it. You certainly wouldn't bring out not bring out your medication in front of other people
and
because
be
you were
embarrassed about it. Exactly, you know. So absolutely, that stigma that surrounds it, unfortunately, is just so frustrating. And it's interesting that the latest figures, I'm not that updated, but the latest figures that I heard, and I think these were global, is that something like 3 out of 4, that's 75% of people globally. Now that could be from a very, very small fractional percentage right up to severe cases, but this is the stats. These are the stats, is that 3 out of 4 people, that's 75%, are struggling with stress on a daily basis. You're not surprised. I'm watching your face and you're not, you know, and I'm not. That is the society that we live in. We're saturated, we're bombarded, we're overwhelmed, and we're so eventually distracted from ourselves that we can't. And I had to, as we were talking before the break, I had to go through that journey in my own life and be out there too far and realize I'm losing Pierre as to come back.
So
and
how did you
sure
realize
Ruby
that?
went through the same.
Well, Ruby was in and out of the Priory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's stories of her being on this fantastic show that she had. I mean, we all watched that show.
Oh, loved
I'm
it.
just trying to
The
think
Ruby
of
Wax.
Don't Miss Wax and Ruby
Yes.
Wax Meet.
Love.
And there's stories of her interviewing people, and then her husband dropping her off at the Priory and staying there for a while and being on medication and being fetched and going back. So imagine, I mean, to the outside world, everything seems absolutely perfect. And you're the funny person. You know, like you're the fixer, Pierre. So
Yes,
you've always
that's
got to
right.
be happy and
That's
happy.
right. Her role
If
was
you're
probably the
comedian,
entertainer,
that's
yeah,
it.
the
So
comedian.
you've also got to be smiling and happy. But
That's
if
right.
you are suffering from severe depression,
Yes.
I think it's fantastic that she's come out with it and she's told
we
the world.
need that, and really I'm a big campaigner for it as well. And the further we go, and obviously the book is a lot of, you know, touches on a lot of it, but the book for me is, and it's not to say that it wasn't about writing the book, but it was yet again, as you said, that portfolio. It was an avenue of reaching another crowd, a bigger audience. And ultimately my friends always say, but Pierre, where are you aiming with all this? And there is a higher purpose, there is a higher good, and we might not know the specifics, but I love that she's pursuing that. This and her dealing with the depression and coming out, and if we can put it like that, you know, just come out of the closet with it, because it's got the stigma attached to it. And I'll be the first to say, of course, I've struggled with some depression in my own life, and a lot of it is genetic. Now that's interesting. I've got friends who's genetically got blood pressure medication because the father or the mother or whatever has got, you know, a history of heart problem. You can find that someone with depression, if you had to research it, it's exactly the same. It's
Really,
genetic.
Pierre? Really?
It is genetic. So, you know, if people can understand that sometimes, I think a lot of the time, from what I've seen in my experience over the years, depression is something that's genetically passed on. It's simple. You ask the client, is your mother often depressed? Is your father sometimes down? And they go, oh, that's right, yes, they weren't very happy. Yeah, that's actually true. It's genetic. And you can go further back and you can say, do you remember your grandparents? And maybe, that's right, they were very quiet, very introvert, very never smiling, never happy, never. Well, there it is. It's running in the family. We're so quick to say, oh, Niki, look at your beautiful eyes. You got that from grandma. Or look at your lovely smile. That comes from your mother.
true.
You know. But we don't go, oh, look at your depression. That's grandma. Oh, look at your anxiety. That's your father.
And we're certainly not equipped to deal with it.
No.
And we keep quiet about it because we have to put on this face that everything is fine
Well,
and
that's
everything's
it.
hunky-dory.
You're right. And mine certainly is Pierre stroke Peter stroke rock stroke counselor. So what my friends and the people that I interact with shame, and I mean they mean well, but they tend to see you as always okay. You're the counselor. That means you are always okay. I can't have a down day, you know. And you learn to hide that.
You've always got to be on top of things.
Always on top. And the same with Ruby, is if she's the comedian, always funny. I'm sure that people expect her to be always funny.
Well, I think we've finally got Ruby on the
Yay.
line. Yay. So, Pierre, you stay right where you are. Hi, Ruby. Are you there?
Hi. Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
I heard what you said.
Hi, Ruby. It's
Hi.
lovely to have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Sure, thank you. Is this live?
This is live. It's going
Oh,
live.
okay. I'll be there. I'm pointing my toes then.
I'll point my toes too. How's that?
Okay, now we're being ladies.
We're being ladies. I have Pierre de Villiers who's in the studio, and he's written a book, Dear Pierre, and we were actually just talking about, he's a counselor and he helps people. We were talking about depression, and not that that's the way I wanted to introduce you to the show, but that you've come in at that particular time, Ruby.
That's good time.
And
I don't know
Hi,
why.
Ruby.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
Okay, thanks.
Great, big fan. I was just telling Nikki.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
We are all big fans, Ruby.
You're good.
And, you know, just watching your show, Don't Miss Wax and Ruby Wax Meets, and seeing how you are with different celebrities and the way you question and your interviews. I mean, that must have been well, the rest of the world certainly thought it must have been a perfect time for Ruby Wax, you know, having these shows, being on top of your game, keeping everything together. But in fact, things behind the scenes were quite different, weren't they, Ruby?
No, they weren't. I'm sorry to ruin your interview.
No, you're not
but,
at all. Go ahead.
No, I was really having a good time, and I was
Okay.
having children, and I was, you know, I wasn't a popular girl, so to meet this A-list of celebrities was the most thrilling thing that ever happened to
I can
me.
imagine.
Yeah, but then I think I wrote a show, but only about 5 years ago that was a comedy, and it was about depression.
Mm-hmm.
But this next show that I'm doing right now isn't about depression.
Yes, no.
Yeah,
Yes.
but everybody labels you now. You know what I mean? It's like saying, well, at one point in my life, you know, I might have
hear
had
you.
herpes,
Mhm.
or, you know, at one point I was potty trained. So
Mhm.
people don't go, hey, what was it like to be potty trained?
So they almost expect that for the depression to be there, you know, the show on depression to be there all the time.
It wasn't. You know, I mean, you have something like that. It's terrible, but it's like shingles, but it's worse. And you have it once every 3 or 5 years. So when you're doing a show like that, you wouldn't be able to get out of bed. So I wasn't hiding anything. I just wasn't ill.
So Ruby, are you? I mean, the fact that you have spoken up about mental illness, just watching your TED talk, which was absolutely
Oh, yeah.
superb.
Thank you.
Are you happy that you've done that, or do you feel that it has changed people's perceptions around how they see you?
Well, in England, it has. I only did the show in the beginning because, as I say, in the show, somebody put a poster up of me that said, this woman has mental illness, please help her. And I didn't give them permission. It was to raise money, right? So I wrote a show and pretended that was my publicity poster. Because, you know, if you say you something like that, good luck keeping your job because it has such a stigma. Well, then I wrote a show, and I just did it in mental institutions. So then it took off, and it went to big theaters. So then eventually, because of that, I don't want to, by accident, the law started to change a little bit, and I filmed people in Parliament standing up and saying, yes, they were ill too. And so then I got to speak at Downing Street, and I got to be, you know, and I really pushed it. And so I think even Nick Clegg now is starting to put more money in mental illness because it's 1 in 4. That's more than every disease wrapped up together. So I do feel like I have, like, what a great thing I got to do. I mean, I never would have expected that.
Yeah, remove that stigma. I mean, that's something that we were talking about now. But also, if you do remove the stigma, then you want to be able to explore whatever it is that you explore in your career without that mental illness or depression following you wherever you go. That's part of the campaign.
Are you
isn't
saying
it?
because people think that's what my next show is about? You mean following me like that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then some people might think, how come I don't have, Johnny Depp on stage with me? Because that's sort of what I got known for, you know, is interviewing them. So my whole thing is you got to keep reinventing.
Right.
You know, otherwise you get stuck and you get bored, and you got to make a living. So if you're lucky enough, I got to go back to school, and then you get more material, and you can be funnier about interesting stuff. Because I'm a comedy writer most of all, so now I'm taking different subjects and spinning them into comedy.
How challenging is that, Ruby? When you were doing your show Don't Miss Wax and Ruby Wax Meets, television was so different in those days. I mean, now it's all about reality TV and it's shock TV. How has it affected the way you write comedy, if at all?
Well, don't forget, I write real comedy shows, like Absolutely Fabulous. So it isn't affected by reality show. That just was a monster that grew up.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's cheaper, and you don't need people with any skill. You can just get somebody to show up and file their toenails.
Right.
So it's cheaper on everything, and it gets the same ratings, if not more. So TV changed because they found a real cheap way of doing it, and nobody knew the difference. So in my day, when I was a child, when you'd interview celebrities, they had a talent. They could tap dance or they could, act.
Absolutely.
And now I wouldn't want to do a show, call me a snob, because I don't want to ask somebody, who they had, well, I guess I'd like to know who they had sex with, but that's all they're famous for. Or Liz Hurley wears a couple of, pins on her dress. Imagine interviewing somebody and discuss how long can you talk about the safety pins holding up her dress. So that's not for me. Let somebody else do it who's much better. And so then I moved on.
I hear you. So how has your stay in South Africa been? How was the show in Johannesburg?
Oh, that was the old show. Can you imagine my brain?
I can't keep up.
No, that was the old show because they'd never seen it before. And then I got really nice reviews. And now this is a new show. I've never done it before in Cape Town. So last night was the first night I ever did it. And then, people were surprised because now I'm talking about something completely different. But it's something everybody can relate to because I'm talking about how difficult it is. Even though some of us are lucky enough to make a living, we're still living in such a frenzy that why are we so busy? So I try to, and why do we have I don't know, maybe there's somebody who doesn't have them, but those critical voices in your head that go, you gotta, you should have, you didn't, you screwed. There are things that our plumbing is going wrong, that we're not equipped for the 21st century. So I tell you sort of how to survive the 21st century, still keeping all the accoutrements. Like I still want to internet, I want to be able to buy a shoe at 4 o'clock in the morning, but it's how to understand what your engine's about, like your brain. So is this making sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely, it's making sense. So, I mean, I know that you've got your MA in from Oxford in mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. Is that part of it? Is that being mindful? Is that finding a way in this jungle that we've created for ourselves, still trying to find that clear path? Is that what you would say is mindfulness? Yeah, I mean, we used to have other means of slowing us down. So people would pray before religion turned into war. They would do that. They would meet with their community. They'd have old shaman grandmothers. And now I see in the show, I can't even find a grandmother in my country because everybody has so much work. They look like your grandchild. So we don't know where to go. So now we have to pull the brakes and study kind of techniques. I mean, you can get it through Tai Chi, or you can get it, if you're an athlete, you learn how to kind of calm your brain down. There are ways to do it. It's not like you're going to stay in that state and be a vegetable, but we do have to cool the system. That's why so many people are burning out. That's why boys under 30, they're having the highest suicide rate. That's why kids are not cutting. But even if you aren't that extreme, people are burning out, and nobody's talking about it, except the numbers keep going up of heart disease and everything else. So I think it is a relevant show. And so last night was your first night. And how would you say, I mean, I know it's a new show, so it's difficult to really gauge, but the Joburg and Cape Town audiences, I mean, what would you say about South African audiences? They're smart, and everybody asks really interesting questions, and then they bought my book, which is what the show's based on, which is always important for me. And they're on the ball, and they're not as inhibited as maybe, well, nobody's inhibited. Once you do a show like this, everybody gets loose, because I'm so being so, if you use humor, it kind of is like foreplay. You open people up, and so kind of you break the ice, everything goes. As long as I'm amusing and honest, then they'll play. And it feels really good. It feels like we're friends.
that I could say after the show, everybody to my house.
So people are coming in. I mean, it's an experience, it's a show, but there's also a shift that could be taking place during that show.
Yeah, well, I try to take you by surprise, so you don't know what's coming next. Something will be really shallow, then something will be, observant, then something. I try to take you, and that people like that. You're getting your money's worth. You're going on a roller coaster ride.
Listen, you mentioned your book, Say New Worlds, and I know that Stephen Fry also has spoken very publicly about depression. And he said of your book, Ruby Wax has an extraordinary mind, and she has brought it to bear with trademark wit and searing honesty on the subject of that mind, and the mind of all of us. Very few will be able to read this wonderful contribution to the literature of mental health without recognizing some part of themselves, and certainly of someone they know. A ruby beyond price. That's beautiful.
That was nice of him.
That was. Is that what you were hoping to do? I mean, when you started on this book, did you think about, am I going to make it funny, and am I going to make it serious, and how am I going to blend the two?
Oh yeah, that's the trick. That's really the trick. That's why I have to write it over 400, over and over and over again. And even in the show, I'm rewriting it tonight. Okay. There's areas where you think, okay, bump it up, make it funny. Other times people go, oh, that's really interesting. Then you can't interrupt it with funny. Then you have to jack it up with funny again. So that's kind of all I can bring to the table. Yeah. People are so brilliant, and I'm not like that, but I can translate into humor. It's my one gift.
Absolutely. I mean, it's groundbreaking, really, isn't it, Ruby?
I hope so, because I have to say, it's strange when you invent something new. Well, when I first did celebrities and I spent a week with them, people thought, what the hell is she doing? Because you're supposed to just have them in the studio and talk for 5 minutes, and I would spend 5 days with them. So nobody's done that.
Again.
And yeah. And so that was cool. And then I really like reinventing, so that's what I get to do in this show.
That's exciting. Listen, Pierre's got a question for you.
Yeah, Ruby. I was just saying to Niki before we had you on air that, I agree with this. You've got to constantly reinvent yourself. I don't know if you know that I'm an SA celebrity, and I've been on TV and done all that, and in the public eye and that. So, and then also, brought out the book to give back to the people. But we were saying that they always look at me, and especially from being on TV every night and that, and they expect you to always be okay because Pierre's the rock. Now, what I want to know from you is, when it comes to Ruby, and we were wondering, are people always expecting you to be funny? Are you the constant comedian?
Well, no, unless you're paying for it.
Good answer.
I'm
going to use that.
Yeah, you pay for it, I'll be funny. I mean, if I'm with my friends, I'm and I love them, I'm hilarious. But if I just meet somebody, I ain't putting out. Just like celebrities didn't put out for me unless I made them laugh, and then they said, "Oh, stay with me for 3 hours."
Yeah.
You can't. Nothing is free.
Yeah.
If I'm in a good mood, I don't care. But I love, when people come and talk to me at the end of the show, I couldn't be happier. So when I'm happy, I'm funny. But if somebody's being an idiot, I ain't pushing it out.
Sure.
Listen, have you managed to? Has there been a time out for you to go and watch some of our South African comedians?
No, I haven't had time to do that. I saw one guy in London, but I just got here. I have a house here, and I had to go straight. I rewrote this is a new place. I had to memorize it.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've been busy.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have a house in Cape Town. So you visit regularly, Ruby?
I do. This is the greatest place. I'm not saying that. I don't go around the world going, this is great. But this really is.
Where are you
when
going
you guys straighten out your politics, it'll be the greatest place on earth.
Well, listen, have you ever thought of writing about our politics? Our comedians seem to be doing very, very well talking about South African politics. It can be quite amusing, really.
Well, if it's not in your blood, if you don't understand it, I think let other people do it. I understand certain other things, like why some of us just really can't cope in a very funny way, and what to do about it. I think that's a pretty interesting subject for me to stick on for a few years.
So how long will you be in Cape Town for, and what is the name of the show, and if people want to come along and watch?
Okay, well, it's on every night at 8. Except Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. And then it's on twice, not this Saturday, but a week on Saturday. And I think I'm only on till the 15th, and it's called Sane New World. And then the book is sold, and then I sign it after the show. And the show is based on the book. It's not about the 1 in 4, who have something wrong upstairs. I say this in a loving way, but it's in 4 and 4. It's for everybody. That's why I wrote the show.
Okay, that's fantastic. So people can go along and they can get some tickets. Pierre just wants to add one more thing quickly.
Quick,
Yeah,
last
sure.
thing. Ruby, I know that Jennifer Saunders was saying that she also was struggling with depression and everything that we...
Actually, she isn't.
Oh, right. Okay.
No,
yeah.
she had a physical disease, and if you have a physical disease, you're going to go a little down, but she doesn't have that.
Oh, well, okay, well, that's already... I was going to say you guys should do a depression thing together and do an AbFab Depressed or something.
Yeah, but she doesn't have it.
I hear
and
you.
these women are crazy. They don't have depression, but I'd say
Are they wonderful?
they're in the 1 in 4.
They are wonderful.
Thanks, Ruby.
Listen,
Yeah,
Ruby,
that's genius.
we've run out of time. It has been so fantastic having you on
Thank you.
Conversations with Niki. Thank you, and for this groundbreaking show. And I just hope
Thank
lots
you.
and lots of South Africans come and watch and take it all over
Come
the
and
world.
watch and then visit me.
Oh,
okay,
lovely,
after.
Ruby. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
care.
Ruby.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And Pierre, thank you for being my co-host in this
Thank you so
in
much.
this last half
Yes,
hour.
impromptu,
And
yeah.
thank you for tuning in. It has been super. I hope you have enjoyed the show, and I hope that you will be tuning in same time next week. For me, Niki Seberini, take care. Goodbye.
Hi, my name is Esvia Prinsloo, and I'm the HOD of IT Integration at Bridwin Preparatory School in Melrose. We started using study apps about 6 months ago and have seen astonishing results. We were quite amazed to see how quickly the kids have been able to use study apps and the benefits it has shown with regards to reinforcing what they've already learned inside the classroom. I would highly recommend study apps for any school.
Studyapps.co.za. Conversations with Niki was brought to you by Studyapps.co.za, South Africa's leading education app for tablets.